What's good, people? My name is Derocc, and I wanted to go over how to make a sound with you guys. Specific sound is in my track called Turbo. That was just released yesterday. It's very much a square wub type sound. Let me play you a little example of what it sounds like. So it's very square, kind of fuzzy, and yeah, let's go right into it. I'm gonna do a side by side remake of it. So I'm gonna start off with a Thor as the main bass for this sound. All of my bass sounds, or pretty much all my sounds, period, I will always combine them inside of a combinator. So let's see here. Right off the bat, it's a monophonic sound. I don't have that in the preset one, but if I'm only playing one note at a time, it doesn't really matter then. First oscillator, it's gonna be a multi-oscillator on square, and I use random. Yep, use random one. Second one will be an analog on square with the pulse width at 64, so it's a nice wide round square wave. I like to drop them down an octave just because that's where I tend to work in within the piano scroll. Have both the oscillators sending to the first filter. It's going to be a state variable on bandpass. Turn down the envelope. And turn up the resonance a fair amount. And then we're only going to send the top oscillator, the multi-oscillator, to another bandpass filter. They're once again fairly high resonance, not super high though. Turn up the amp envelope, the sustain on the amp envelope, that way it's going all the way. And we'll throw on some chorus as well. Somewhere around there. I usually don't really mess with any of those normally, but let's turn this down too. Alright, cool. So we got the basic setup within the synth. Now let's do a little bit of programming inside of the Combinator. So on the original patch, you can see that I've got a few things with the filters going on here attached to Rotary 1. I've got the first bandpass filter going from the lowest hertz, so it's probably I think it's around 20. I would have to look exactly to see, to 66. So that's somewhere around the 1K mark, maybe 900 hertz. Just out of curiosity, let's find that out. Yep, just over 1K. And then, still on Rotary 1, the second filter is gonna do slightly the reverse. It's gonna end at 68. To be probably a little bit, it's a little bit higher than the other one, but it starts higher up as well. So you can see that they go in opposite directions, like that. That's going to give you a slight vocally sound, and then finally route the filter 2's drive to that as well, from looks like 34 to 81. These don't have to be exact by any means. These are just what I use in the original. What else is there? Oh, and the shaper on hard clip. Let's give it a little extra shenanigans. So where we're at so far, we got this. Kind of a fun little wompy sound. Let's see here. Next, I've got... Well, that unison isn't doing anything, because I ended up using the onboard chorus. A scream on tape mode. Tape mode, I feel, is one of those hidden gems within Reason. That's really awesome. Honestly, I put it on just about everything. Have parameter 1 all the way up. That way you get the full the full high end of the frequency spectrum, and we'll turn that up a little bit. Next, an EQ to cut some lows and to boost some highs. Don't cut out too much of the low mids, and I'll boost those up a bit. Next, the wonderful Haas effect. It goes through these three guys. If you are not familiar with the Haas effect, basically it is duplicating the signal, panning them left and right, and then delaying one slightly. So, in order to do that, you're going to need a Spider audio merger and splitter. And then I like to use three digital delay line units. When you're creating these, hold shift. That way it doesn't automatically route them for you. And then I'm going to change these all to milliseconds and drop them all way down. One of them you're going to have at about 10 milliseconds. It doesn't have to be exact. I decided to use that since it's a nice round number. I don't know why I didn't turn the feedback on those down. I think normally I would, but we're just going to roll with what I had done originally. So then, to complete the Haas effect, we'll need a line mixer. Once again, still hold shift, but this is going to be used to route everything back into one signal. So if we flip it around, I'm going to move this one down to the master out there, and we're going to take the output of the EQ, jump into the Spider. Then send all these to the individual delay lines, and then send your delay lines to their own channels on the line mixer. Inside the line mixer, you're going to pan out left and right. So we have the one that is delayed by 10 milliseconds going to the right. That's going to create a wider sound for you if you listen. That's clipping like crazy. Let's turn some stuff down. Looks like I turned this down as well. So in here versus just a single signal versus all of them together. Creates a bit of a wider sound. Let's see, and then after this, we got some EQ, maximizer, some EQ, and then a high pass filter and some reverb. So let's see here. When you're making this next EQ, make sure once again you hold shift. Otherwise, it's going to auto route to the auxiliary effect. So you can flip this back around, take the outs from there, bring it there, and then let that go in. So with this, we cut some lows. Again, because in the end, we'll end up filling this up with a sub bass. Then we cut around 1K, looks like. Somewhere around there. Yeah, you can hear that's real harsh on the ears. We don't really want that. See, next, another crazy low cut. Yep, this time we'll turn this one on as well. Activate both of those, bring them all the way down. Then you can widen the cue a little bit to kind of adjust where that low cut's happening. That kind of gets rid of any crazy stuff going on down real low. And we got a maximizer. Boosts up the input gain. That way you can actually start doing stuff. And we'll turn on the soft clipper. So, once again, another low cut. That all the way down. 102 all the way down. a slightly wider cue. I think in the songs, a lot of times I'll end up. I didn't in the preset patch, but let's see. Then we got a high pass filter. This will be used for more modulation. I will show you guys how I do my modulation for this sound once we finish the actual sound itself. There you go. Change this to high pass. We'll boost up the resonance. So a little bit higher. There we go. And then we got some programming to do with that. So if we jump back up here, scroll down to polarizer number 2, just so I can show you exactly what I did here. Here on rotary 2, we're gonna have it modulate the filter frequency, but we're only gonna go up to about 4.5K. And then we can modulate this as well. This will help give you other timbres with your wompy sound. And we're gonna finish it off with a plate reverb. For most of my reverbs, I almost always use a short, bright plate. Right, so we'll lessen the decay a little bit, turn down the damp, the high EQ all the way up, and bring that down. That just adds a bit more life to the sound. Puts it in some space. Cool. So now it's time for how to kind of use this. So if you hold Option or Alt, you can automate those. So for the automation and modulation, I've got a low E in there right now. On rotary 1, do something like this. We've got it going from as low as possible up to as high as possible, and then back down. The reasoning that these are at 2 different values. I like the attack portion to be fairly quick, and then the release to be a bit slower. I just kind of like that that kind of timbre. It gives the womp. And then the high pass filter modulation. This will give you all sorts of different tones and timbres throughout it. Normally I'll just end up stretching that out a bit more. So if we do a few of these in a row, the second one will stretch out. And we'll stretch out, but we're also, let's jump this down to 30 seconds and bring that a bit quicker. So you can hear this is going to help give you all sorts of varying tones and timbres with this sound. That way it's not as static versus without it. It's a pretty static sound. So this just gives you that little extra movement. So hopefully you found this informative. And yeah, stay tuned for more tutorials.